Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Luis Majano, otherwise known as Superman of the ColdFusion world, because if you were at Into the Box, you actually saw him next to a Superman cutout where you could take his photo, but also because he's just produced so much open source software and really helped out the ColdFusion community. And we're going to be looking in depth in today's episode at two things that he's been heavily involved in. One is CommandBox, which he created 3 years ago, and the other is ForgeBox, and why everyone listening needs to know about these things, and I strongly recommend check them out. And we'll look at what the heck is CommandBox for those people who don't know what it is, and what the heck is a CLI and a REPL. Also look at how containers could be saving you time and headaches in your ColdFusion development, why there is no longer any need for Node in your development, package management, and also we'll look at why everyone listening should have a ForgeBox account. And there's a new kind of ForgeBox account that some of you listening may have been waiting for with bated breath if you but knew it existed. So welcome, Luis.
Gracias. Welcome very much, Michael.
And he's also the founder of Ortus Solutions, who do a lot of great stuff. It's not just him. There's a whole bunch of guys, you know, Brad, Gavin, other people who I'm forgetting the names of in this second, but I will remember later.
Yes.
So, you know, suddenly 3 years ago, you decided to create CommandBox. Why?
Yeah, I think that during that era, you know, kind of circa 2013 or so, I think it was a kind of the dark ages for ColdFusion, in my opinion. Really a lot of lack of tooling for our language per se, package management, operating system integrations, you know, kind of all the other new languages were really accelerating and really just becoming very prolific. So I think in that era, you know, the 2010s to the 2014s is where you saw a lot of exodus in some of the ColdFusion members, because they were just kind of fed up with the tooling in place. In all reality, you know, they were moving to other things like Node.js. That was kind of brand new. Grails was big at that time as well, mostly because of all these tooling that the actual language offered. And I think that at that time, we really got very frustrated with that landscape. And obviously the vendors, you know, cannot be blamed for everything, right? They have budgets and things to do, but I think that in our case, we really wanted to take the lead and basically create the gaps that we were missing in terms of tooling. We had already, you know, several boxes at the time, especially, you know, dealing with MVC frameworks like ColdBox, testing frameworks like TestBox, at that time, the new CMS Containerization that we had created. So we were starting to get a little bit of more momentum in our group. So we had more hands on deck. And I just got tired of language shaming, you know. I got tired of people starting to say, oh, you're still coding in that, right? Or, you know, oh, ColdFusion, that's so, you know, 2000s. So, you know, basically we joined as a team. We created a retreat that we usually do at the beginning of the year. It was in California. And we started speccing out the initial versions of CommandBox, you know, what we wanted in a CLI, what we wanted in terms of package management, and just make ColdFusion developers really productive. That was our goal.
Well, I'm so glad you did that, because there's a lot of great things you can do with CommandBox. But for those who listening who don't know what it is, what the heck is CommandBox?
Sure. So CommandBox was the first iterations, were actually, you know, kind of proof of concepts that Mr. Denny Valiant had a long time ago in the Rilo days. And we kind of joined forces with Denny. We brought him on board, and, you know, we kind of tear it apart, and we started, you know, infusing it with all the Ortusy and Boxy stuff to kind of create CommandBox. And in essence, CommandBox is a very thin Java layer that wraps the Lucee engine right now and creates a headless ColdFusion environment for any operating system, right? All of it, like all the commands, all the way that CommandBox, the machinery around it, is all built using ColdFusion, which is something that we really wanted. We really wanted to showcase the language at the operating system level, So very thin Java layer is basically just a glorified class loader. It basically makes sure that all the classes are loaded in order for us to bootstrap the CFML language, right? Based on Lucee right now, Lucee 4. And then we basically do everything, even the shell, all the ASCII art, everything is CFML. And that was a big plus for us. We really wanted to showcase the language at the operating system level, and any CFML developer can contribute, and that's what was important for us, is that we didn't want to build it in another language. We wanted to build it in the languages that basically are composing ColdFusion, which is Java and of course CFML. So that was the very techie description of how CommandBox is created. But in essence, it is a package manager. So it would allow you to manage packages just like any other package manager in any language, like Mavin or NPM or Yarn. It is also a REPL, which is a read, eval, print, loop application. So it does allow you to actually test drive on the language itself. If you guys have ever used CF Live or TryCF, I think it's called, where you actually put snippets of code and you're trying things out. Well, imagine that, having that availability at the operating system level. So you have that capability. It keeps state. It has pretty much the essentials for a traditional REPL. It is also a CLI, which is a command line interface. So we actually are able to attach our tentacles into the operating system very, very ingrained. And you can do anything with the operating system. So you can create bash scripts, you can create cron jobs, you can create services, you can create automations, you can talk to sockets, you can create a host of sockets and server sockets. You have the full gamut of your operating system at your disposal. And you can even create mashups with our commands with operating system binaries. Piping information from Git into CommandBox CFML or vice versa. So it is that huge integration with the operating system that we wanted. And then the server aspects of it. So, and I think that's where we have made great strides, even more than any language out there, I would say, venture to say, in all reality, what we are calling JVM containers, which allows you to actually create separate servlet containers that can be deployed on any directory in any port with any Java application. And one of those Java applications is, of course, ColdFusion language. So CommandBox is a whole lot more than just for CFML. And that's one of our big targets for next year, is to start targeting even the other areas, which is Java development. I think that we can definitely make improvements for Java developers as well, in order to start servers, stop servers, activate JVM containers, and so forth. And we have a huge roadmap with the server managers to even create orchestration in the future, to be able to actually start up clusters of JVM containers and manage them for you and balance them for you. And of course, Docker. Today is a world of containers. So the CommandBox has a CommandBox Docker image that is very robust, production ready for any CFML engine or any Java application, actually. So if you want to containerize your Java application, you can very easily with CommandBox.
And what that means for people is, if you want to test out your code against CF10 or CF 2016 or Lucee 4 or Lucee 5, you don't have to go and download and spend half an hour setting it up. You just tell CommandBox, I want to run this code in this Docker instance with that version, and it downloads it, installs it for you, and runs it. Exactly.
So you can leverage CommandBox for running any CFML engine, and like I said, any WAR. So if you have custom CF engines, or even Jenkins, you can run Jenkins with CommandBox, or any WAR-based Java application, CommandBox can talk to it.
Fabulous. Well, we'll talk more about package management and what exactly that is a bit later in the episode. But let's have a look at containers and how those can save you time and headaches. Because I know from the recent survey we did on the State of the Union, that ColdFusion Union, that is, that not everyone uses containers. And I think they're missing out here. So what are the advantages of using containers?
So sometimes people get confused with containers and JVM. I'm sorry, and virtual machines, right? So before it was the era of virtual machines where you actually were simulating a full entire operating system, but not only the operating system, you were virtualizing the hardware. From network cards to CD-ROMs to the CPUs to the amount of RAM. And all that, of course, takes a lot of resources, right? Because you are basically virtualizing those hardware items into actual virtual software, right? Containers are basically a concept that is part of the operating systems, which allows you to actually segregate at the directory level. So based on several permissions and a lot of very crazy operating system stuff, you can create little silos in your operating system that act and feel like if they're a complete separate machine, right? And that's the technical part of it, but the cool thing about it is that you can actually create with Docker images of software, right? So you can actually, package your application with all the dependencies, have a build server that puts that together. Even with CommandBox, you can actually even warm up the server. So that means that the server can be updated with all the latest patches, with the configuration scripts that you want, all the data sources that you want, all the dependencies that you want. And then that image is taken and put in a registry, and then that can be deployed. The cool thing about containers is that you can almost even have zero downtime. You can spool up new containers while the while the new containers are loading, the old containers are still serving traffic. And then once the new containers are ready to serve, then the internal load balancers just switch, and the orchestration then says, okay, nope, now we're moving to the new containers and new code is deployed, right? So rollbacks are extremely easy to do with that. And it really changes the way to do DevOps in all reality as well. It facilitates the ability to scale tremendously. We have for example, our Docker swarms, and we can say, okay, right now we have high traffic, spool up 5 more instances, and boom, a few seconds later, we have 5 more instances serving our image, right? Then we can scale down, scale up. So it really is a fantastic way to deploy your source code than the older traditional approaches, which, you basically have to sometimes cross your fingers that you don't have traffic at that moment in time, right? So containers,
instead of it taking,
yeah,
instead of it taking weeks to get a new hardware server up, or maybe quite a long while to get a new VM up, it's only seconds to get a new Docker container up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you even have the Docker machine commands on your operating system that can connect to different cloud providers like DigitalOcean or Vultr or even AWS. And, from your machine, you can just say, Docker machine, I need a new machine, a new swarm, and you can scale your hardware, and very easily create duplicates of your swarm members or workers and just scale very, very easily. I mean, I think it's a technology that people really, if they haven't tried it, at least go try it and start learning about it, because it will be more prolific in the near future.
I think the other thing that's nice is that, you can have the container on your own laptop, so you can be testing things out and then you can deploy it out into the cloud, or you can do the development and testing on the cloud, however you want to do it. And all this thing where you talk about the swarm scaling up, all that can be controlled through other pieces of code, as I understand it. Is that right? Or
correct? Yeah.
You don't have to have like a sysadmin there deciding to spin up new instances. It's all automated.
Yes. So it really simplifies the whole dev operations. Obviously, you have to learn and get all the knowledge around the containers, and there are several UI tools around it which are extremely good. We use one called Portainer, which can be found in portainer.io. And it is a great open source project. It also has some support packages, so I encourage you guys to help that project as well. But it really puts a nice UI on top of Docker, and it really, at least for me, maybe a click on a bunch of areas that I did not grasp when I was starting to learn the whole containerization options. But it's great because there's no more of those, oh, it works on my machine. It's pretty much the image that you're working in development will be the image that gets sent to production.
It's genius. And I think this is something, you know, we were talking about before we started recording the episode, that this is where ColdFusion is actually ahead of other languages with the use of the containerization and all the features in CommandBox.
Yeah, I mean, deploying CFML as a containers is really, it was available since almost a year ago. That's when we deployed our first CommandBox image. So really, there's no excuse for people to not be leveraging containers with ColdFusion. In any version of ColdFusion, actually, you can containerize even CF9 at this point. So there is that capability, that it is there. It is just a matter of developers to use it.
Great. So you talked about earlier that we don't have a need for Node anymore. Tell us a bit more about that. And I know Brad Wood wrote a bunch on that, and we'll include a reference to his series of blog posts on it.
Yeah, we kind of played some marketing words there, but the reality is that it's not like there's no need for it. There's no need for you to start building all kinds of utilities when you can build them in CFML. You know, so we were trying to kind of help promote people to actually start looking at CommandBox as a viable option for you to write operating system integrations. You know, write your own CLIs. It has all the capabilities that you would need, and probably even more than the basic Node installations give you. You know, Node just gives you basic things. Then there's also kind of packages that are built on top of it, like Yeoman, for example, to create generators, Grunt and Gulp for automation and task management. So with CommandBox, we really wanted to have a one-place shop for you to actually integrate with the operating system. So, you know, you have task management available now since the latest release. So you can actually create builds with it, from the ability to do tokenization, to do replacements, hashes from files. It also allows you to do generators. So it has a full system for prompting users to create wizards. So it really is a lot of tooling that is available. And Brad even created a series called Don't Touch That Node, where he actually goes in depth into all the tools that are available there for you to actually build utilities. And that's what we want. You know, we want the CFML community and the ColdFusion community to start leveraging these tools and start growing the community with all kind of tooling and libraries.
That is great. So earlier we touched briefly on package management, but maybe not everyone listening really is clear what we mean by that. So what the heck is a package, and why would you want to manage it?
Yeah, I think the whole concept of package management comes from a very long time, where, you know, it's the same issue in any language, right? When we start creating things, there's always the issue of reusability, right? So the idea of creating packages is basically to help you with reusability. You know, when you create a new project, you know, you don't want to go scour all the different projects that you created just for that specific function you want, right? Or that specific module you had used. And that's what people usually are doing. You know, they're scouring their old projects for, you know, bits of code here and there, then scouring the internet for bits and here and there. I mean, I remember when jQuery got famous and there was 1,000 million jQuery plugins, right? And then maintaining those plugins was a pain. And if I asked you, okay, Michael, which version of which plugin do you have? You're like, well, I don't know, right? You have to go into the source code and view the version. So the idea of managing your dependencies in a project has always been an issue, right? And package managers are trying to solve that issue by helping you adhere to rules, right? And standards, and say, hey, no, when you build a project, you can create a descriptor file that will basically tell me, you know, what are the dependencies for your project, right? And in the Java world, this could be a pom.xml, which is in Mavin, or NPM, it could be a package.json. So you can have Ruby gems, or in ColdFusion, you have box.json, which is CommandBox, right? So you start to build things now in a more modular fashion, instead of the old kind of legacy traditional monolith, which is just placing wherever you want everywhere, right? And it gives you a set of commands, so you can easily install new packages, list your packages with their specific versions, update specific packages, even run an outdated command So it can actually tell you which packages are completely outdated, which ones have new versions out there. You can remove packages. You can even have the concept of packages for production and packages for development. So we try to even push you further to actually think about build processes and continuous integration and continuous deployment. So that's one of the things we push for as automation, and really ingrain the ColdFusion developers to adhere to modern standards, right? And not the old legacy approaches where you build everything and everything is in the source control, right? So we that's what we're trying to foment, and obviously it's going to take some time for the ColdFusion community to grasp this, because obviously they never had these tools before. But I think that if they have been exposed to other technologies, especially Node, I'm pretty sure everybody needs to do front end for their applications. The flow and process that Node offers and NPM offers is great, right? And that is available to you since almost 3 years ago, right? So it's a matter of educating now the community and saying, no, there are standards and approaches to building software, which that's what you should call it. You're not building a site, you're building software, right? And moving forward with that approach as a package.
And then you can have scripts for packages and artifacts and lots of other things. Yeah,
pretty much a package can be anything. That's what we wanted. It was not a box-centric thing. It is basically a ColdFusion thing. Any folder or zip file that contains a box.json, that's a package for us. And that not even requires for it to be actually ColdFusion code. So we have actually have some internal packages, which is Java code. We use our own method of package management to package Java applications too. So in all reality, all you need is a descriptor, and the descriptor is what defines what a package is. And then that package can come from anywhere, right? Now we have several rules of where they come from when using CommandBox. There are things like ForgeBox, right, which is our cloud repository, very analogous to NPM. But things can also come from a file. That can be a zip or a tar. It can be a directory that could be in your computer or in a network. You can use Git. So if you have any Git endpoint like Bitbucket or your own Git installation, you can use that. Subversion as well. GitHub. We have shortcuts for GitHub integration. Also Bitbucket. Then any HTTP or HTTPS location that opens it up to the whole internet, right? And then we even have jar endpoints now, which basically can map to any location that a jar exists in, and then it will automatically try to make that a dependency for you. And we're working on Mavin support coming soon, so we're going to be able to bridge into Java land as well using Mavin, and hopefully later on Gradle and other build processes in the Java world. But it gives you great flexibility of where you're going to store that package, that source code, right, or binary per se.
So how does ForgeBox relate to this? Is that a place where you store your packages, or?
Yeah, so like I said, all these endpoints, what we call endpoints, are where you can store packages. Now, ForgeBox is different than all of these because it is basically a source directory. It was created by us in order to house your source, right, as a directory, and it supports multi-versions, and that's the important thing. Only ForgeBox is the one that actually allows you to have multiple versions of your code basically in that directory. So you can say, hey, give me ColdBox 4.2, or give me now ColdBox 4.3, or ColdBox latest, or bleeding edge. So just like, for example, Mavin or NPM, it does allow you that capability of leveraging multi-versions in your source code. And that's a big deal for developers, where they can actually even lock their specific dependencies to specific versions, or do all kinds of semantic versioning installations around your packages. So that's where ForgeBox kind of fits in.
And what does it cost to use ForgeBox?
So ForgeBox is completely free. It is open source, just like NPM. well, not the code is open source, but the whole aspect of ForgeBox is open. That means that any developer can create an account and start contributing, right? We do have private packages and more features that will be as a software as a service coming. And there's also ForgeBox Enterprise, which basically means you can run ForgeBox as a container in your own infrastructure. So these are for institutions or companies that do not want to use the one on the internet. They want their own private ForgeBox and their own network per se.
And why would someone want private repositories instead of the usual open source ones?
You know, just like with anything, when we're building code, you know, sometimes we have certain packages that we don't want to make public, or it's for a specific client. So now you're going to be able to do that in ForgeBox. Actually, by the end of the week, there's a few updates coming in that will allow you to do this, which will be free for a limited time. So there's a few more updates that are coming this week for ForgeBox, but it does allow you that privacy. You know, you're working with a client, you build several packages that obviously you don't want to be open sourced, right? You can keep them private, right? And that is the major impetus behind private packages, is to give you that privacy of your packages, so you can still leverage CommandBox, but in a more private manner.
So why do you think every ColdFusion developer should be having a ForgeBox account? You know, why should they go out and create one?
Good question. I think that what we want is to promote the community, right? I think that for longest of times, I think the ColdFusion community has not been very shareable. I don't even know if that's a word, but I think that the community has not really come together to share their knowledge in sharing their code. Right, I think only a few people in the communities are always the ones leading and the flag, right, and doing this. But because there was never a very easy way to do it, right? Obviously, NPM is a huge thing that took off because it was so easy to use, right? It was developers were very easy to register their accounts and put any type of library that they had created up there and share it, you know, and that's what we're looking for. You know, with only 2 or 3 commands, you know, you can register your account, create a package, publish it. And that's what we're trying to foment, is for the community to come together and say, no, you know, there's all these things that you have done throughout time, start sharing, you know, even if you think it's dumb, you know, I'm pretty sure somebody will find use for it. You know, we even have a Chuck Norris command, which has been downloaded a tremendous amount of times. And that's what we want. We want to foment the community.
So I think that's a great thing. And I think having a place you can share code or save time by downloading code other people have shared and maybe improve it and upload it back is great. But if someone's a busy developer, what's in it for them to share some of the cool things they've written in their code?
You know, I think that with anything, when you start getting involved with open source and putting your name out there, it's like a virtual resume card, to tell you the truth. You know, you're putting your code, people are looking at it, people are benefiting from it. Your name is getting exposure. You know, you have your own actual page created for you. So you have an actual address that you can share with people and say, hey, look at all the contributions I'm making, all the different things that I'm working on. And to tell the truth, even when we look for people to work with us, we look at their contributions. We want to see if they're involved with the community, with any community at this day and age, in all reality. We just want great developers. We don't want only ColdFusion developers. We want great developers. And having the ability to put their knowledge out there is important for us. And I think for major corporations are looking for people that are actually involved.
I think there's also a benefit for the companies that employ these developers, because if you share the code out, and first of all, you're probably going to make the code a bit better before you put your laundry out for view for everyone. You'll probably clean it up a bit. And so you'll probably have fewer bugs in your code. And then other people may well improve the code. So I think there's definitely a lot of benefits all around in using ForgeBox.
Yes, agreed. I think it's a great benefit for people, for your employees to start learning from other folks.
And there are hundreds of things already on there, hundreds of modules and other things on ForgeBox already. So plenty of opportunity to get cool stuff or contribute things.
Yeah, definitely. There's almost 400 contributions already and growing, which is great to see. And hopefully it'll keep on growing and growing like this. And we see several, we're starting to see now daily registrations, which is great. At least one person is registering, and start contributing. There's so many things that are contributed right now that you'd be surprised.
So maybe we should have a competition for who can contribute the most things in October or whatever we come up with. But.
Yeah, maybe we should start offering some little bit, Starbucks cards or Amazon cards or something like that. We actually want to gamify some of the things with ForgeBox. That's one of the discussions we're having, kind of have a directory page where you can show the biggest contributors through time or through a month, and, highlight developers. I think that it just makes it nice for people to start contributing.
Yeah, maybe you can have some awards at the next Into the Box conference to recognize those people. Yeah. Just like the Oscars, but this will be for ColdFusion development.
Yes, definitely. We definitely need to think about something like that for next year for Into the Box.
Yeah. So anything else you want to share about CommandBox or ForgeBox today and how they help you to code, package, share, and go?
I think the most important thing is for people to try it. It's very surprising still to this day that ColdFusion developers do not know what a CLI is or what package management is or how to, they spend so much time, installing CF servers where you can get up and running really in a matter of minutes. I mean, in less than, you can download 30 megabytes, which is what CommandBox is, and install it, which basically just means execute it. You issue one command and you're up and running. So there really is no excuse.
So someone could just have 10 minutes spare and get started.
Yeah, pretty much. If you have 10 minutes to spare, which I'm pretty sure everybody does, download CommandBox, start it up, and start a new server, see how it works. You'll be surprised how easy you can get up and running with it. And doing that. I mean, we actually are working on a new book called Modern CFML in 100 Minutes. Maybe I'll give you the link. It's still a work in progress, but this will probably help a lot of modern developers adhere to modern practices for CFML. Let me send you the link, Michael, here.
I will put it in the show notes along with the links to all the other cool stuff we've discussed.
Yeah, and this book was obviously, it's still a work in progress. It's inspired by Ruby in 100 Minutes and Mike Henke's work on CFML in 100 Minutes. But we're taking it to a more opinionated land and what we believe is modern CFML, right? And hopefully that will be good for people to start working with ColdFusion very, very easily.
Fabulous. Well, I look forward to seeing that. So, why are you proud to use ColdFusion these days?
Oh, like I said, with all these tools and everything that we're doing, I mean, that was our intent. People start using these tools to feel proud again of the technology they love and use. I think
no more
nowadays,
language.
Obviously, there's so many languages. Shaming, right? And nowadays, there's so many languages and so many technologies. It's great to learn other technologies and learn other languages. It is important. I think that we have to be all around developers, not only a single language kind of developer. So that is really important nowadays. But I always come back to the CFML language. I love it. It's how it integrates as a middleware for all kinds of technologies. I think nowadays it's more about building apps. I think all the languages are up to par in certain senses. Some have different specifics than others, but nowadays it's very hard to distinguish like language features. It's like, oh, look at my for statement or my if statement, or look at my closures. I think it's more about building apps. It's what makes you more productive, what makes you actually, do business. At the end of the day, anybody will use any kind of tool as they see fit. For me, I think that ColdFusion is one of the biggest languages that I love, that I am more productive in. Obviously, when they have to do other things, I do it in other languages. But I'm proud to do that because of all the tooling that we have created, and to really, really put you up to par and more now with other languages, and finally be able to have those kind of automations, technology, very cool things to play around with in your own language.
Yeah, cool things that save you time, make your code less buggy.
Yes.
Just amazing stuff. So, we were talking earlier about that Gartner report that I think that was like 8 or 9 years ago. That report came out that said ColdFusion is dying or something, or is dead, which is obviously not true because there's hundreds of thousands of sites using ColdFusion. But what would it take for you to make ColdFusion more alive this year, Louis? Just to put you on the spot a little bit.
Ooh, well, according to that Gartner report, they actually used a Google search that was using like learning ColdFusion or ColdFusion learning or something like that. So I'm going to go change everything to have those 2 keywords to make ColdFusion look like it's alive again. But apart, from the joke, I think that our mindset at Ortus is that, we want to create very easy to use tools to take the language to another level. And for that, we just need people to actually write apps. That's the whole thing. That's how you're going to showcase a language. You're going to showcase the language by creating solutions for businesses, creating great applications, software as a services, and try it out. A lot of people still believe that ColdFusion is like it was 10 years ago. I mean, we attend several non-ColdFusion conferences. We attended several Java conferences this year, and that's the knowledge that people have. So it's up to really us in the community to take that knowledge forward and say, no, look at all the great applications we're building. Look at the tooling that we have. Look at the way that we can start ups and containerize applications. And that's what's going to make ColdFusion more alive. So it really will take people to actually start using these tools and moving forward.
That is great. And my whole mission with this podcast is to make ColdFusion more alive. So, I really appreciate everything you and Brad and Gavin and everyone else at Ortus is doing with all these tools. And a lot of them are open source, so there's no reason not to try them out. So I know you were speaking on the topic of this episode at CF Objective a few weeks ago. Tell us, what you liked about CF Objective.
Yeah, I love CF Objective. I loved it for the longest of times. We actually coupled Into the Box to it for several years, actually 3 years. So we did Into the Box one day before CF Objective. And it was great for us. I think that now they changed venues. They did it in Washington, D.C. For me, it's fantastic. I love D.C. There's so much great food, so much great things to do. So it's a very centric location, a very good location to get to. And I hope they continue it. It was not as huge as other years. I think they rebranded it again, and it takes time for those things to take off, and hopefully they'll start fine tuning their processes and fine tuning venues and locations and stuff like that. So, but hopefully they'll do it because for me, I've always loved CF Objective, so I had a great time.
So I know you're speaking at several conferences in the rest of this year, CF Camp, CF Summit, NAGW, if I'm saying that one correctly. What are you looking forward to each of those?
Yeah, CF Camp, always great to go to Munich. Michi Nat always puts on a great conference. It has grown tremendously throughout time. And it's, to me, one of the best European conferences for ColdFusion and technology. So I'm always looking forward to that one. CF Summit is a fantastic Adobe conference that they put every year in Las Vegas. Over 500 attendees. I mean, just fantastic to see how the community is very vibrant. You have over 500 people there, and they presenting very big corporations showcasing their ColdFusion installations. You know, last year they had shop.com with a tremendous amount of revenue going through their ColdFusion applications. So it really is inspiring to go to these conferences. And then we also go to NACW, which is our motivation to start going to non-CFML conferences. We've attended over 4 already this year. This will be the last one of the year, maybe. But NACW is the National Association of Government Workers. So it is a government-centric conference for small government and federal government. And I'll be presenting on RESTful services, how to actually build sustainable RESTful services and basically containerize them. So, and of course, I'll be showcasing ColdFusion to create rapid application development with it and containerizing it and showing them how easy it is to build RESTful services, containerize them, and deploy them.
Fabulous. So if people want to find you online, what are the best ways to do that?
They can go to Twitter, and my handle is @elmajano, or Ortus Solutions, @Ortus Solutions. And they can also go to the site, ortussolutions.com or luismajano.com.
Fabulous. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today, Luis. It's always great talking with you. And good luck with all. Yes, good luck with all these conference presentations and the book and new releases of CommandBox and all the cool things happening on ForgeBox.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.